Strange Brew Podcast, Season 1, Episode 321. Welcome to a Victory! Friday, Black Friday. Welcome to a little coffee table podcast here this week, which we talked about on Monday. We'll stick with the Monday, Friday for this week, do one from the home office here today, which maybe if it sounds a little different, that's why it sounds a little different. I don't think we've done a coffee table home office podcast since last Black Friday, honestly. We've got a pretty good setup. We got a nice mic. My father-in-law got me a couple of years ago, but we just haven't had the chance to do anything, I think, from home in the last year. I think the last home podcast we did was a Victory Friday, last Black Friday. We've been doing a lot of those. This is the third year in a row. Going back to 2023 with the win in Detroit. Last year, they beat the Dolphins, right, at Lambeau on Thanksgiving night, and then this year. So it's been a nice run, but I think that is the last time we did one of these. So we'll break it down. Now, I do not have, outside of that victory clip, I had to make sure we got that in there. But I have no access to a lot of the stuff that we normally do from the tickler files at work. So like we normally have the highlights at the end of it. We'll probably do that on the Monday podcast when we're back in studio. So we won't have any of that. But we're going to break the game down. What a win. What a win. Talked about that on Monday. Huge opportunity for this team to sweep the Lions, to not bury them. I mean, it's not over, but it's going to be really difficult for the Lions to come back now in the division. Down 2 in the loss column. Packers got the sweep. The tiebreaker would be the Packers, but as we went over on Monday with that tie, that stupid tie in Dallas that makes everything look awkward, there's no real world where you're going to end up tied with anybody because of that tie, but in theory, you have the tiebreaker now. I did read reports, and I'm not entirely sure what's all 100% factual on Twitter anymore. It came from a blue checkmark Lions reporter, though. There were reports that there was a wall punched by Dan Campbell at the conclusion of yesterday's game, so you love to hear that, like a little Andy Bernard. That was an overreaction situation. But it was just a massive win, and for all of the folks that took shots at LaFleur, and hey, we did too on this podcast, I didn't say I was in the camp of wanting him gone. Remember, we went over that extensively. Frustrated with the Panther game, frustrated with the Eagle game and things like that, and the play calling and all that stuff, but I was not in that camp. Interesting game yesterday in that we finally saw all gas, no brakes LaFleur, scared money don't make money LaFleur, which was a quote he had earlier this year. Just going for it on fourth downs, going for the win, not worried about field goals, not playing not to lose. They played to win yesterday. Love was awesome. Dontavian Wicks was incredible. We'll talk about all of that. Massive win, get to 8-3-1. And now today we'll talk a little bit about the Eagles-Bears game. That's a big one. That's the standalone on Black Friday. And if the Bears lose that game, Packers will be alone in first place at the end of business today on a Black Friday. We'll also go over just a little bit of Badger football when we get to picks. One more game, just one more chance to roll that positivity and that momentum into next year. The battle for Paul Bunyan's axe. The line on this game has flipped completely. This opened as a Gopher 3-point favorite. It is now a Badger half point, so essentially a pick'em heading into tomorrow. We'll see where that lands tomorrow, but that's where we're at right now. We'll just touch on the Bucs a tad. Not good. Another loss on Wednesday. At least they kept it close in Miami. Tough team. First place team, 12-6. Bucs were right there. Cole Anthony was a disaster in 11 minutes off the bench. Basically cost them the game in 11 minutes. It's almost impressive. 0 for 7 shooting at 3 turnovers. He was a nightmare. But another loss. Still haven't won with Giannis out with the groin injury there in New York tonight. Badger basketball. Nice win. They're at the Radies Children's Invitational in San Diego. And they got a blowout win against Providence yesterday. They take on TCU today. We can hit a little bit of Brewers news, too. I don't know how much I want to talk about payroll and how the Brewers are already worried about next year's payroll in November of this year. I feel like Mark is planting seeds there for a quiet offseason. We can go over that a little bit, too. Let's go.
On the ground, a chance here. Durham to Hardy to first. Hit time! Yes! The Brewers win! Yes!
Here comes Melvin to the 25, to the 20, Gordon 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Wisconsin, record-breaking run.
Morgan a smash up the middle, base hit to center. Here comes Gomez, around third, a throw and the Brewers win.
Here's the snap, he looks, he throws, and complete interception. And there is your Super Bowl dagger.
Booker the drive, gets inside, leans in, knocked away and stolen by Holiday. Phoenix has to foul, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
Swinging fly ball in the right center. Broxton is there, and they're the champions. They have done it.
Yeah, welcome in Friday morning. Hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving holiday yesterday. My wife and I went up to Sheboygan. We were hanging out with my mom yesterday, and just the three of us. My wife had to do a little bit of work at the hospital, and then we went and had some turkey and did all the stuff. I did the turkey, and then Mom was responsible for literally everything else, and she knocked it out of the park. The old recipe, the grandma's old recipe, stuffing with Italian sausage in it. We had the sweet potatoes. We had the mashed potatoes. We had the dinner rolls. The problem that I ran into is a problem that I run into often on Thanksgiving, and my wife will tell you, I just don't learn. I just don't learn. At this point, at 41 years old, I'm not sure I'm going to learn. I'm not sure how much room there is for growth at this point. But my mom always puts out a pretty good hors d'oeuvre spread, even when we're talking about the Christmas get-togethers. And this year, we tried to make sure that it would be curtailed a little bit because normally it's a ton of stuff. And this year we scaled back just a little packed cheese, a little port wine cheese, what was the other flavor of packed cheese? Vegetable. I think she got them at Gibbsville. They were great. Just some cheese and crackers and a little beer dip and some smoked salmon from Schwartz in Sheboygan. So not a ton, just enough to kind of have some things to snack on when the game started, as the turkey's getting ready in the oven and all that good stuff. And even with the limited access, even with the limited hors d'oeuvres, I still hors d'oeuvre myself to death. Once I get started on that hors d'oeuvre table, and I think the other mistake was I didn't have much of a breakfast. I think I had an apple before we left. And my wife and I did we get a boatload, an ass load, as I would say, of Chinese food the night before Thanksgiving. So we did do that Wednesday night. And then I just had a little apple and a cup of coffee on Thursday morning. But I think that's the problem. I'm thinking I'm saving my calories. I'm saving myself. And then when that's all you eat from when you get up until noon, once that first hors d'oeuvre plate hits, and you start loading it up with smoked salmon and crackers and packed cheese and beer dip and pretzels, I can't control myself. I have zero discipline. And then I immediately am back for plate 2, and I'm back for plate 3. And then guess what happens 2 hours later? We get the turkey carved up. We get all the great platters out, and you've got all the spoons of mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and stuffing, and you all got it lined up on your plate and top it with gravy. And then I'm halfway through that plate, and I am full. And I did it again. And every year it happens, and I bet it's going to happen next year, and we'll talk about it on the podcast next year on hopefully a victory Black Friday if the Packers play on Thanksgiving Thursday. It'll be the same deal. It's like when you go to a Mexican restaurant and they put those chips on your table. Like every good Mexican restaurant will put some really quality chips and salsa on your table, and that's what you just get. That's the standard. You get a drink, and then that's sitting there, and it's free refills, and I chip myself to death. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same problem. So I hors d'oeuvre myself to death. I did rally, finished that plate, got a second plate, so we did that. My mom made pumpkin cheesecake. Awesome. I like that much better than pumpkin pie. Pumpkin cheesecake was fantastic. She had a whole container of the after-dinner drink, the grasshoppers. Remember we talked about, and the Kelseys were talking about that on their podcast after Jason spent time in Wisconsin for the Monday night game and went to St. Anne's and did the whole supper club thing, and he was explaining what these ice cream drinks are to Travis. My mom made a whole bucket of grasshoppers, so we had a couple of those too. So I did rally, but once again, I found myself in the torture chamber when it came to actual dinner because I just had too much stuff, too much smoked salmon, too many crackers, too much cheese. So we'll see. Probably not going to learn for next year, but there's always the chance, right? So this morning it is a little pumpkin bread, about 3-4 Tums, 2 tree Tums, and just a cup of coffee trying to get things moving here. We've got some friends that are coming to town today. So yeah, it's hopefully been a fun holiday weekend for you and continues to be so. We also have a major snowstorm coming, depending on where you're listening. Southeastern Wisconsin, I think most of our listenership is in that area. But we have a huge snowstorm coming. We had a little bit Wednesday night where it was really windy and you got about a half an inch to an inch. But then because of the temperature drop in the wind, the roads got bad. But they're talking starting tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, 6 to 10 inches for most of the southern half of the state and southeastern Wisconsin. I think even from Madison all the way over to Sheboygan and Milwaukee and all that area. But we're supposed to get dumped on 6 to 10 inches tomorrow. I don't mind that, though. When I have off, it's during the work week if you're trying to travel to and from or trying to get places. I don't think we have much on the agenda tomorrow. So once our friends leave in the morning and we do a little parade thing and they leave, then that's pretty much it. I mean, we don't have to go anywhere, and we've got a fridge that is just loaded with Thanksgiving leftovers and Chinese leftovers, so we don't have to go anywhere. So that I don't mind. It's when these things happen during the work week and you've got to rearrange your whole life just to make sure you get to work. But when they happen on a weekend, I don't know. I don't mind that. Get the snowblower, batteries all charged up. We'll be good for Sunday morning. But that's coming too. That is a pending one of the first big snowstorms of the year on Saturday. All right, let's get into it. Packers and Lions Thanksgiving Day. Like we went over on Monday. This was, hold on, I got to delete some emails here. Black Friday emails are just relentless. Every place, I know we've talked about this, every place you've ever bought something from and you've ever clicked accept terms and conditions or whatever that we all blindly do, every business I've ever been to, every website I've ever been to is sending you emails today about Black Friday deals. I do kind of miss, I know we used to work on Black Friday in the studio. That used to be a work day we had to have, but I think in the last 4 or 5 years, it's become a company off day. I didn't mind back in the day going to work on Black Friday, and then I'd just sit there with a cup of coffee and scroll Twitter, and I'd run into all the videos of people getting into wrestling matches, raining blows down upon each other at Shopko, at Target, and all the places that had like a 45-inch TV for $50. I do kind of miss that. I don't think that Black Friday stuff exists as much anymore. I don't think people are lining up anymore at midnight to get deals at Black Friday. It's mostly online. So I'll just delete those quick. All right, so we talked about on Monday, golden opportunity for the Packers to kind of put the Lions really in a tough spot, not just for the playoffs. I do think the Lions will find some way. What are they now, a game back or a game and a half out of a playoff spot? I know they were on the outside looking in when we went into Thursday. So they are, they're 7-5. Right now the Niners are the last team in at 8-4. So they're a game back. I think there's a lot of time, 5 games left for them to get back into the playoff standing. But when you look at the division now, with whatever happens with the Bears today, we hope a loss. I know there's some debate among Packer fans about who you root for today at 2 o'clock with the Bears and Eagles. To me, we just do progressive steps. So I get that they play the Bears twice and you kind of control your own destiny. So maybe you're more worried about a 2 seed or staying in the 1 seed running. Although, as we went over on Monday, looking at the Rams schedule going forward, I don't see anything worse for the Rams than 13-4, which would mean the Packers, I think, would essentially have to win out to get the 1 seed if that's what happens for the Rams. Now, again, Matthew Stafford gets blown up on an all-go blitz, and maybe all the fortunes change and things get turned upside down. But when you look at what the Rams have left on their schedule and the way they're playing, it is hard to envision a world where they are not going to be the 1 seed. So I know there are some Packer fans thinking, well, maybe if you get up and over the Eagles, you can get the 2 seed, or maybe you do still have a chance at the 1 seed. In my mind, we just go with steps, right? So the step 1 is to solidify your playoff standing, which is not totally done yet. I mean, the Packers are 8-3-1. We got a long way to go. But step 2 to me would be winning the division. So I will root against the Bears today. I guess I'm rooting for the Eagles today just to improve the odds that the Packers come out of today in first place. And with the 2 games against the Bears and the one coming up is at Lambeau this coming Sunday, right? Then the 1 week, where are they the week after that? And then the week after that, they're in Chicago. So I just go one step at a time. If it comes to the last week of the year and you have a chance at the 1 seed or a 2 seed and you've already got the division solidified, then I'll worry about that stuff. But one step at a time for me personally, you can do whatever you want. But I think I'll be rooting for the Eagles this afternoon. But if you could have gotten a win yesterday, which the Packers did, it becomes really difficult for the Lions to get back in the division race at 7-5, and now 2 back in the loss column of Green Bay, 2 back in the loss column of the Bears. And the Packers, even with that tie, it's not likely a tiebreaker comes into play, but you have that now in your back pocket if it would get to that. And for all of the daggers thrown in Matt LaFleur's direction, what a game he called yesterday. That's what we wanted, right? I mean, when we talked about how frustrating the Panther game was from a play-calling perspective, how frustrating the Eagle game was from a play-calling perspective, even last week, and I know we talked about the 23-6 win against Minnesota, we went over how I would have preferred a more aggressive play call in that game and to win that game 35-6 or 45-6. And we talked about that, and then we talked about a potential defense of Matt LaFleur. If we were to defend Matt LaFleur when they got the 17-6 lead and knowing J.J. McCarthy is the Viking quarterback, they felt like the game was pretty much done. Dial it back. Don't risk injury. Don't risk anything. Run the clock out, essentially. And that's what they did. But we have been over now for weeks and weeks and weeks wanting a more aggressive. What happened to all gas, no brakes, LaFleur? What happened to scared money, don't make money, LaFleur? And we saw that yesterday because when you break this down, and we will, but you win 31-24, if you go to the team stats on this game, basically everything is a push with the exception of 4th down success. Total yards are close, rushing yards are close, passing yards are close. A lot of that stuff is really close. And I don't think, did anybody get a turnover? No turnovers across the board. But everything is super tight. Neither team had a ton of penalties, and we can go over that if you want. There was the one big miss on pass interference with Watson. What was that, in the 3rd quarter? Just, I don't know how you don't call that. But if you're a Lions fan, your counterpoint would be, did Matt LaFleur get that on that 3rd and 1 or whatever it was from the 2-yard line? And Belton went on a false start, and they showed that sideline view. Did Matt LaFleur get that timeout in time to avoid the penalty there? The next play, they score a touchdown. Now, Matt LaFleur, I don't know if you saw the postgame. They asked him about that play. because the debate on the broadcast was, well, when you see the camera angle, LaFleur is signaling for timeout, and it looks like it's well after the Belton false start, but maybe he was saying it. We don't know. We don't have a microphone down there. Maybe he was saying it. He just wasn't signaling for it. And somebody asked LaFleur about that post game, and he winked. He winked at me. He winked before he said, "Oh no, they got the call right." So if you're a Lions fan, that would be your counter. So the penalties were essentially the same. Lions had 5, Packers had 3, and there were some missed calls across the board. But when you break everything down, third down percentage was essentially the same. Red zone was essentially the same. The difference in the game was Matt LaFleur's willingness to go for the win. Don't play to lose. Go for the win. On fourth down, Packers were 3 for 3, and 2 of their touchdowns on fourth downs, and the Lions were 0 for 2 on fourth downs in big spots. One of them at the beginning of the second half, but one of them when they were fairly deep into Packer territory and probably could have at least gotten a field goal had they decided to kick it there. Not that ends up being the difference. What would it have been then? 31-27 if everything plays out exactly the same way. But that's the difference in the game. And, we talked about it on this podcast extensively over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Where is the aggressive play calling? And we finally got it on Thursday. And I think there is a chance that LaFleur was waiting for a game like this where you have a massive division game, Thanksgiving backdrop, and all the stuff and the subplots going into this one, and he just unleashed a different level of aggressiveness that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 weeks for this team. So you break down the game. The only mistake to me, and we can go through the box score too, Jordan Love on that first drive, he just missed Bo Melton on what should have been a walk-in touchdown. They go on that opening drive, just clipping up 5-6 yards of play, 12-play drive, 56 yards. And then was that third down or second down, I think, because he missed back-to-back passes. He was 3 for his first 3. And then that miss to Bo Melton. I did gasp. I thought, oh, God, you had him. And what was great about that play up until he dirted it right at Melton's feet was that he did all of the work to keep that play alive where there was a blitz and nobody was open, but he was able to backpedal and shift to his left and shift to his right and get to the outside. And then while Love is moving around like that, like a Madden video game, you had Melton on the outside with a corner on him, but the corner is staring at Jordan Love. So Melton, don't be suspicious, made a move slowly down the sideline. And while the cornerback was locked in on what Love was doing, Melton got 2 yards behind him. And then when Love makes one step forward, that corner came crashing down thinking Love was going to run. And then Melton takes off down the sideline. And Love saw it, and he got as excited as I got, I think, when I saw it, and he threw it right at his feet, and that would have been a walk-in touchdown. Then he misses the pass to Watson. Ultimately, you get the Brandon McManus field goal. By the way, Lucas Havrasik finally released before the game. So they have landed on McManus. Let's hope he stays that and not McAnus at any point this year. It makes the most sense to me. It feels like he's healthy now, and he has been making kicks, so they finally opened that roster spot up. But he makes a 45-yarder, and you do grab that 3-0 lead, but you felt like there was way more there. And the pass to Watson, too, was on the mark. That would have been a first down. Who knows what happens on the drive if you complete that. So a frustrating first drive in that you were moving the ball well, the running game was clicking, Love was hitting his passes, and then you had the miss to Melton, the miss to Watson. You end up getting a field goal when you felt like you could have had a touchdown. But not a bad start. You grab a 3-0 lead. Packer defense right out of the gate was really good. 3 and out for the Lions. A lot of pressure. And Micah Parsons setting the tone for another huge day for Parsons. But then you get to the second quarter. Packers go for it on fourth down. That was the Dontavian Wicks 22-yard touchdown pass from Jordan Love that initially was ruled a touchdown. Then they went to review, and I thought, I don't know. And Lions fans, that's one Lions fans are very upset about on Twitter because they just don't feel like he had control of the ball when that first foot was down, but he did. So in my totally objective opinion, he absolutely had that foot down when he hauled the ball in because the first replay I did think, I don't think that's going to be a touchdown. But then they went to, Blandino, who was in the booth with them yesterday with Burkhardt and Brady. And when they slow it down, it does look like that foot is down, solidified on the ground right as he establishes possession. Then the second foot, which we thought was the first foot on the initial replay, that foot is his second foot down. You get the touchdown. What a day for Dontavian Wicks. And Love put that in a spot where only Wicks could get it. Incredible hand strength and focus there, which has not been a strength of Dontavian Wicks so far in his career, and at least this year in some ways. But he's able to haul that in. Love put it right in between the corner that was beat and the safety that was coming over. Couldn't have been a better spot. Wicks makes an incredible play, and you have a 10-0 lead after that. Then the Lions got down the field. Montgomery in that Wildcat 3-yard touchdown run, 10-play, 65-yard drive. Look, you knew you weren't going to cruise, right? 10-7 lead there, and then the Packers again. This was 4th down 2, I think, right? The Romeo Doubs 2-yard touchdown pass, or maybe that was the Dontavian Wicks later. Either way, 12 play, 70-yard march, and he puts that one on the money. Just a simple out route. Watson distracted the initial cornerback that was going to go with Doubs by running that in route. Just a really good route concept. Doubs cuts outside and catches that touchdown on the boundary. 2-yard touchdown pass, Packers up 17-7, but the Lions get that touchdown, 7 plays, 65 yards, 17-14 halftime, and the Lions get the ball to begin the second half, and you're thinking, man, it feels like we've kind of controlled this game, but now you're in a spot where they score late in the half, and they get the ball, they can be in the lead with a good drive in the third quarter. Packer defense, though, gets that stop on 4th down to begin the third quarter, and then you got the prettiest pass of the day. The Bella de Ball. Jordan Love on a rope. Just drops it in there to Christian Watson. 2-play, 51-yard drive, a 51-yard touchdown pass. Watson, we've talked about it, the early part of his career where he just couldn't haul in passes like that consistently. That led to a lot of frustration from one Aaron Charles Rodgers that he would put those right where you wanted them, but it was 50-50 whether Watson was going to get them. Well, since he's come back from injury this year, it feels like his confidence is up, and the more plays like that he makes, the more confident he gets. That's a pass that I don't know that he necessarily makes, a catch that he might not necessarily make his rookie year or his second year, but it feels like he is now more consistently. And with his size and speed, and it doesn't look like he's missed a beat since that injury, he is just getting better and better and better. 51-yard bomb, Packers up 24-14. Isaac Tesla, 17-yard touchdown pass. Lions got right down the field, made it a 3-point game again, 24-21. And then, I think this was the second 4th down touchdown. Love to Dontavian Wicks. Very similar route to the Doubs route. 9-play, 72-yard drive, 31-21. Lions got that field goal to make it a 7-point game, but then the Packers on the last drive, knowing they needed 2 first downs, really, to ice the thing. They're, on the Lion 45-yard line when they went for it on 4th and 3. And it's one of those spots where in past weeks, you feel like LaFleur would have punted there. Put him inside the 10-yard line. Whelan, you've got one of the best punters in the NFL. Put him inside the 10, put him inside the 5, make them go 95 yards to tie the game. But LaFleur did what we've been begging him to do in those spots. You have 3 yards to get. This game is over. If you get 3 yards, trust your guys to get 3 yards. He did. And Love put one on Dontavian Wicks, 15 yards downfield. Another tough catch with a defender right on him, but again, Love put it in the only spot you could, and Wicks showcased hand strength yesterday that we haven't seen from him consistently as he hauled in that pass first down. Then you take a couple of knees and you get out of there with a 31-24 win. I did love at the end of the game, and maybe we can run back on Monday. The audio we play you from the locker room for the game balls, all that stuff. We can maybe do that more on Monday. The editing software I have here at home doesn't allow me to do that. But I did love in the post game, they gave Jordan Love the John Madden Award, which was another nice backdrop. And I did have a great time yesterday because every broadcast seemed to have a Madden component. Now, Madden did work for every network, so it does fit. We think of, if you're my age group, you think of Madden primarily on Fox and then on NBC on Sunday Night Football. But when him and Summerall started, they were on CBS. So it does stand to reason that every broadcast, Fox, CBS, and NBC last night, all had something Madden-related. I did read some tweets from people that had a little bit of a dump in their pants about maybe too much Madden. I don't think so. They don't bring up Madden a ton, really, anymore. Was it a year or two they had the documentary out? That was really, really fun to watch. But this is about the only time of year where you get a Madden extravaganza. And I did love all of the old footage from the 80s and 90s. And I think they ran back on the Packer broadcast, the 1997 broadcast, where John Madden introduced the world to the turducken, the duck baked in a chicken, baked in a turkey with 1,800 legs on it. And just seeing him and Pat talk about that, and he had the telestrator out, I thought that was awesome. I loved all the Madden content yesterday. And they can keep doing that every Thanksgiving Day as far as I'm concerned. But Love got the Madden Award. And, they all get the turkey legs. Really funny moment with Micah Parsons, who was in Dallas last year when the Cowboys won, and he got a turkey leg. And they showed that broadcast back, and he was kind of complaining about the flavor of the turkey and not enough sauce on the turkey. And he said very genuinely to Aaron Andrews, this is a major upgrade, major turkey upgrade. And Love was getting after it. But my favorite part was, did you see the offensive lineman behind Jordan Love? Aaron Banks, who's been playing a lot better, and they gave him a huge chunk of change in the offseason. And we talked about, I think, coming out of the Panther game, that offensive line just hasn't been that great. They've been getting better. No coincidence. They've had more success on the field since that offensive line has been a bit more cohesive. Anthony Belton got the start yesterday. Did have that penalty that turned out not to be a penalty, but overall looked pretty good. And Banks has been a lot better at that left guard spot. But they gave Banks a turkey leg, and he had that thing down to the bone, I think, within 60 seconds of the interview starting with Jordan Love. I did love that. I always think with those moments, because sometimes you'll see players, their body is a temple, and some players I don't think feel like that. But you wonder sometimes with that kind of stuff, how good is the food really? Because it's kind of been sitting out a little bit. I know they always have the chefs on, and they talk about the way they're cooking it and their idea behind it. But that's been sitting out for a while, right? So is it cold turkey? Does it even taste good? How much of it are they really eating? You see some of the guys take little teeny bites just for the cameras and then put it down. But Aaron Banks literally housed an entire turkey leg like he was at some kind of fair. What's the Ren fair or whatever it is? Like he was at one of those, and he had that whole thing down in about a minute. That did make me laugh yesterday. But you end up with the 31-24 win, and again, the biggest difference in the game, big balls LaFleur going after that fourth downs, and the team paying it off. 3-for-3 on fourth downs, and 2 touchdowns on fourth downs as well. So if you want to break down the box score a little bit, Jordan Love. Toyotathon Love is here, baby. It is remarkable what this guy's able to do during Toyotathon. Is this week 2 of Toyotathon? It's been insane what he's done on Thanksgiving. I think Zach Cruz had this tweet yesterday. In 2023, when they had that kind of shocking upset of the Lions, back when we didn't really know what was going to happen with this franchise and Love and all that, we were in the middle of that. That was that first game in 2023, Thanksgiving Day, where he thought, okay, we might have something here. He had 3 touchdowns, no picks that day, a quarterback rating of 125.5. Last year against Miami, he was 21 of 28, 274, 2 touchdowns, no picks, a quarterback rating of 129.2. And then this year, 18 of 32, 34, 4 touchdowns, no picks. So right now, he's got 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a quarterback rating of about 128 in 3 starts on Thanksgiving Day. My God. But he was 18 of 30, 4 touchdowns, no picks, quarterback rating 124.2, QBR of 94.9. I still was getting into it on Facebook yesterday because I put a post up about Jordan Love, makes that big fourth down throw, game over, victory formation, and the great game that he had outside of the miss to Melton, which he's going to have misses. I think that's the problem. If you are a non-believer in Jordan Love, I think a part of the issue is that Aaron Rodgers was so good. And I know they won the 1 Super Bowl, and I guess the titles leave a lot to be desired in the playoff success. That was never all on Rodgers, though. But I think Rodgers was so good and so precise, and most players that you hear talk about Rodgers will say he is the best thrower of the football in NFL history, even if he doesn't have all the rings that Brady has or some of the other quarterbacks have. When you look at ratings and percentages and being mistake-free, he's maybe the greatest in the history of the game. And having watched Rodgers for that length of time make almost no mistakes over the course of a 16-game, 17-game plus schedule, when you see a guy make misses or have misses like that on what would have been walk-in touchdowns like Bo Melton earlier, I think our brain is just a little off because we watched Rodgers for so long that the expectation is that every open receiver, every pass is going to be precise and on the numbers. And we got conditioned, and Rodgers did a little bit of this because of the looks he would give and the groans he would visibly show and all that kind of stuff when things didn't go right. It was always somebody else. It was always McCarthy's play calling or LaFleur's play calling, or it was the receivers running the wrong route or not making catches where he put it right on him. We got conditioned to thinking that every quarterback makes every play all the time. And if they don't, it's on somebody else. So when you see a quarterback miss a throw or two or have a bad game or two like Love did against Philadelphia and against Carolina, we just think, oh, God, this guy sucks. It's just, we're so conditioned to almost seeing perfect quarterback play that when there's a bad game or 2 or 3 or a bad pass or 2, we instantly think, oh, this guy stinks. But I was getting into it again on Facebook after I put some post up that said, Jordan Love, how could you not believe this guy is the guy? And we had a guy jump in there and say he's too inconsistent, and sometimes he looks awesome. If the conditions are perfect, he can be okay, but if they're not, he's bad. I don't understand. I don't get it. 4 touchdowns, no picks, and a QB rating of 124, a QBR of 94.6. What more do you want? But the defense of, if you get into it with somebody like that just doesn't believe that Jordan Love is the guy, the defense is always, oh, his receivers are making all the plays. So in their world, Jordan Love has not thrown a good pass his entire career. He has not thrown a decent pass in the entire 2023 year, the entire 2024 season, and the entire season this year. Anytime Love has success, it's because the receivers did something extraordinary, and every time Love has a bad throw, it's always on him. So it's a lose-lose. Jordan Love has 19 touchdowns coming out of yesterday, 3 interceptions on the year, nearly 3,000 yards passing, a quarterback rating of 104, and a QBR of 73. He's completing almost 68% of his passes. But yeah, that's all. All of those stats are because his receivers are making plays, and all the misses are all on Jordan Love. I don't get it. Like I got into it in that comment section on the post we had yesterday, and I just said, I don't know if some of the people I'm arguing with, and maybe we've talked about this on the podcast before, I don't know that the people I'm arguing with, they're either too young to remember Brett Favre, or they just don't remember Brett Favre because of the longevity of Aaron Rodgers and how good Rodgers was. Brett Favre, and Love is a little more Favre than Rodgers. I mean, he's his own guy. I know we're obsessed with comparing him. Is he going to be the next Aaron Rodgers? Is he going to be the next Brett Favre? Like, we feel like we've got to put Jordan Love in some kind of category when we could just say Jordan Love is Jordan Love. But if you had to compare them, I would say he's much more a Favre model than he is a Rodgers model, in that he is willing to take more risks, and sometimes that doesn't pay off. But if you don't think Jordan Love is a good quarterback, do you remember the Brett Favre era and Brett Favre games where, 5, 6, 7 times a game? I mean, Love does it like once or twice a game, or sometimes once or twice every 2 or 3 weeks. Every Favre game, and we loved him, but every Favre game, he would have 5 passes a game minimum, where he would throw them into terrible situations. Double coverage, triple coverage, F it, somebody's down there, somebody make a play. And sometimes guys made plays, and he would thread the needle with a smoke ball, and you'd think, oh my God, unbelievable. And oftentimes somebody would intercept it, and we'd just say, Brett. You know what I mean? It's just so weird. Like, anytime Brett did that, and you look at his game logs, how many interceptions. He had a year in 2005, Brett Favre threw 29 interceptions. Love has 3 this year. That was like a year, and that wasn't totally out of the ordinary for him to throw 15 to 20 picks a year. If you go over his game logs, he'd throw 1 interception this week, 2 interceptions next week, 1 again the week after. I mean, do we not remember that? I know he won the MVPs, and he won the Super Bowl, and helped them win the Super Bowl, and got to another Super Bowl, so there's all that. He's a Hall of Famer, and we don't know where Love's career arc is going. We haven't seen enough of it yet. This is only year 3. They haven't had a ton of playoff success. Maybe if he makes a Super Bowl run or wins a title, obviously, then he'll be exempt from some of the criticism we've seen. But I just feel like, do you remember Brett Favre? This happened every game. Like that miss to Bo Melton. Favre would have misses like that all the time. Now, he would also have hits like that, but he would have misses like that all the time, and we just kind of went, Brett. He throw into triple coverage, intercepted, return for a touchdown. Oh, man. Well, at least he's having fun out there. You know, it's odd to me that anytime Love does that, he just takes daggers and arrows from every direction. Do you not remember what 15 years of Favre looked like? But he was 18 of 30, 234, 4 touchdowns, no picks. A really good day for Love as he continues to roll this year and should be in the MVP conversation. I didn't look at the odds this morning, but I think he's either 4th or 5th. He's not going to win it. Okay, this is going to be a Matthew Stafford win. And after Stafford, it's probably, who do you think? Drake May and Jonathan Taylor, I would think. So there's a lot of guys, legit guys, in front of him. But I think right now he is 5th or 6th, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in there in terms of MVP betting. That's not on accident, you know? It's just one of those things where I don't understand what those people that hate him aren't seeing. So what do we have rushing-wise? Jacobs did play, and he was good. 17 carries, 83 yards, almost 5 yards a clip. As a team, 30 carries, 125 yards, 4.2 yards a carry. Like we talked about 5 minutes ago, you're seeing more cohesiveness on the offensive line. You're seeing more chemistry there. I think putting Belton at right guard has been really helpful for this line. You've got 3 road-grading guys now with Ryan at center, Banks playing better at left guard, and Belton at right guard. And the offensive line's play has ticked up, and no coincidence, the running game is getting bigger chunks and averaging better than 4 yards a carry. Receiving-wise, what a day for Dontavian Wicks. If you held on to the Dontavian Wicks stock, remember we talked about that before the year, how I felt like he got it together the second half of last year. Obviously, the end of 2023 was great, and his green arrow was way up. He was awesome in the Dallas playoff game. And it seemed like he was on the rise. And a lot of people talked about at the end of that 2023 year how Dontavian Wicks, his footwork at the line of scrimmage is Devontae Adams-esque. Like I think I said before this year, Devontae Adams is a Hall of Famer. Okay, so do I think Dontavian Wicks is going to get to that level? Probably not. But his footwork, his route running are all very similar to Adams at that stage in Adams' career. The thing that Wicks always has to work on is the hands. Can he haul in consistently all of these passes? He does all the work to get there and runs the routes well and has the footwork at the line of scrimmage, and that's all good. But once you do all that, you got to pay it off and actually catch the ball, which has been a problem. He got better in the second half of 2024, and before the year began, I don't think we had it as a part of the bold predictions heading into the year. But I said I would buy up all the Dontavian Wicks stock because when you look at Devontae's career, remember, rookie year was up and down. Second year was definitely a sophomore slump. And a lot of people, a lot of Packer fans were saying, trade him, cut him, get rid of him. And I think it was the middle part of year 3 for Adams where things really clicked in, and then he became a Pro Bowl level receiver, an all-pro level receiver. And with what he's done now, despite adverse conditions in Vegas with the Raiders and now what he's doing in LA with the Rams, he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know that Dontavian Wicks is going to get there, but just remember how Adams' early career went in his rookie year, his sophomore year, and then things kind of clicked in midway through his third year. So heading into this year, if you go back to a podcast in August, I think we talked about how I'm buying up all the Wicks stock because I like everything he's doing pre-snap, at the snap, the route running. I love all of that. If he can be consistent with his hands, I think he's going to be a really good receiver for a long time. And so far, it kind of hadn't gone that way this year, but what a bust out for him yesterday. It will remain to be seen whether or not that this has signs of being a thing he can reproduce as the weeks go on. Can he consistently do what he did yesterday for the remainder of the year? We're going to find that out, but that's the Dontavian Wicks. If you are somebody with diamond hands, as they say, in the stock trading industry, if you have diamond hands and you held on to all of your Dontavian Wicks stock, even when it was down, you bought up other people's stock, yesterday was what you're looking for. Yesterday, he showed you the signs of, oh, that's why we bought this stock. We liked the fundamentals of this stock, and we believed in it, even though it hadn't been doing a whole lot. But you saw yesterday, I think, what his capabilities are. 6 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 4th down touchdown catch, and the 4th down catch that iced the game. He was incredible yesterday. Watson really good again, 4 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Luke Musgrave, how about that catch? I had to do a double take when he had that falling down catch. A pass was a little bit of a wobbler, but about where it had to be. And Luke Musgrave, speaking of guys whose hands you might not trust, he has not had reliable hands in his career or footwork in his career, but he did all the right things on that catch. I couldn't believe I said it was that. I thought it was John Fitzpatrick at first. I said, oh my God, Luke Musgrave. 1 catch for 23 yards. Romeo had 4 for 20 and a touchdown. Chris Brooks 2 for 9. Josh Jacobs 1 for 8 on the day. Defensively, no Quay Walker again yesterday. And again, Isaiah McDuffie stepped up in his absence. 12 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 7 solo tackles. He was a part of the turkey leg celebration as well. Outstanding performance from him. And then let's talk about Micah Parsons. My God, having this guy on your team is just so much fun. I can't remember if it was last Monday on the Victory Monday or the Monday prior where I said, I have moments still where we watch Micah play and you watch him wreck an entire offensive line. You watch him make a tackle in the backfield, get a sack, whatever. And he's just so physically dominant, and his speed is at another level that a lot of tackles in the league just cannot handle. Like, he gets off the ball like that, and he's gone in a blink, and he's on Jared Goff or whatever quarterback, and it feels like the offensive tackle that's supposed to block him doesn't even get a hand on him. And I watch these moments, and I think, I can't believe this guy's on our team. I can't believe we get to watch a player like this. And we haven't really watched a player like that. I know we did the list, was it last Monday or this past Monday, of guys he reminds you of, and it, to me, you just always fall back to Reggie White. The strength, the speed, the way he can take over a game. Remember, we talked about Aaron Campman had some nice years, and KBG had some nice years, and Clay Matthews in the early part of his career would have games where he would take over. But the consistency with which Micah Parsons will just take over entire games at a defensive end position or an edge rusher position, we haven't seen that since Reggie. And he had another post on Instagram where he was holding his finger up and Reggie was doing a similar celebration. He had him side by side. That's what it reminds you of. And again, yesterday, you have all these moments of, I can't believe this guy is on our team. Is this guy really on our team? He had 2.5 sacks yesterday, 10 quarterback pressures, which gave him a win rate on his pass rush of nearly 40%. That is preposterous. Had 8 tackles as well. And didn't he have a tackle on a 4th down too? Didn't he have on a run on a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2? I'm pretty sure he was the one that dumped that play. Just an absolute game wrecker, and showed it again yesterday. So he has now how many sacks? 12 and a half sacks through 12 games as a Packer. A forced fumble, 38 tackles. When you make a move like that before the year, and we were all so hyped about it, and bringing in a guy in his physical prime who has been a dominant player at that position, the position the Packers needed help at the most on that defensive front seven, and all of the stuff on paper just lines up, but then you never know, right? We always have that little voice of doubt saying, God, is he really going to live up to what we want him to be? Is he really going to live up to a $180 million contract and the 2 first-round picks, all the stuff they gave up for him, even though his history would indicate he is? It's the perfect spot for him, physical prime, 27 years old, but is it really going to live up to what you think it is? We always have that little voice of doubt, and it's been that and then some. He has been incredible. And was again yesterday. Kingsley Enagbare had a half a sack as well. So 3 sacks on the day. Like we said, no turnovers. In the kicking game, Bo Melton, some decent returns in there. Romeo Doubs was fine as a punt returner. Just don't turn the ball over. McManus made all 5 of his kicks, 4 of 4 on extra points, 1 of 1 on field goals. I did not understand, and I don't know that McManus understands, with the new kicking rules, you want these guys to kick it in the landing zone at about the 1-yard line, because if you kick it in the end zone, they're just going to take a knee 100 times out of 100 because the new touchback rules put it at the 35-yard line. And he did that, I think, on his first 2 or 3 kickoffs, the opening kickoff of the second half, I want to say, and then after the first 2 touchdowns. And that was a conversation piece on Packer Twitter of, do Rich Bisaccia and Brandon McManus know the rules here? Are they doing this on purpose? Because it doesn't seem like you should be. And then finally, the last few kicks, he was putting it where he wanted to at about the 1 or 2 yard line, which forces the return man to return the ball. And in theory, if you have a good coverage unit, which some was good, some was bad yesterday, but in theory, you'll be able to stop them before the 35-yard line. They'll have to set up at the 25 or 28 or whatever. That's what you want to do, but he so consistently was kicking it into the end zone on his first 2 or 3 kicks, you almost thought, do they not know the rules, or are they that fearful of this return game that they'd rather that just give them the ball at the 35-yard line? I just think he hasn't had enough practice with it, and he finally got into a rhythm with kicking it where he wanted to on his second, I think, his last 2 or 3 kicks, putting it kind of where he wanted to on those kickoffs. But overall, an okay day. Couple of penalties on special teams as well. I guess that's just something we have to accept forever as Packer fans. Like, it's never going to be 100% clean. But you get the 31-24 win and feeling great with another division win a year after the Packers go 1-5. And Bears fans will remind you, I don't know if you know this, Packers went 1-5 in the division last year. They were a fingertip away from being 0-6. Did you know that? Has anybody hammered you over the head with that one? But a year after they go 1-5, despite an 11-win year, they went 11-6 last year. But they went 1-5 in the division, clearly not where you want it to be. They are this year. They put an emphasis on the division games, which you would think they always do, but this year we really did because we were 1-5. And this year, so far, they are 3-0 in NFC North games. 2 wins against the Lions and 1 against Minnesota. Now you've got one coming up with the Bears on Sunday at 3:25. Remember, that time got moved. That was a noon kickoff this coming Sunday. Not this Sunday, but the next Sunday, December 7th. That was a noon kickoff. That is now a 3:25 kickoff, which kind of messes up. My wife and I are taking our moms. We've said this before, that we are taking them to New York City. A Christmas in New York City. And I know we want to kind of pay attention to the game. We've got tickets for The Lion King on Sunday night, see a little Broadway, and the tickets, I think, are for 6:30. So when it was a noon game, it was kind of perfect. We could walk around and check out some stuff and kind of watch it on the phone a little bit, and we would have known the result. Now, I think we're probably going to be sitting down for the show, and it's probably going to be a tight fourth quarter. I'm going to be wondering what the heck happened, and we won't find out until afterwards. That's fine, though. But that is the next big one. Bears and Packers' first matchup of the year coming up not this Sunday, but next Sunday, December 7th, 3:25 at Lambeau. Then the Packers go to Denver. That's the game in between. So this brutal schedule rolls on. Bears, then at Denver, then at Chicago, then Baltimore, who last night, Lamar Jackson, since coming back from that hamstring injury, does not look good. But that is still one of those games where a former MVP quarterback and a team that has underachieved this year is coming to Lambeau Week 17. Then you wrap it up at Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy, I guess, had a concussion coming out of Sunday's game, which would never make fun of that, obviously. But with the way that game went and how rough McCarthy was, you had a lot of people on Twitter saying, he played like it. But I don't know who the quarterback will be for Minnesota the final week of the year in Week 18, but that's where the Packers wrap up. But you're sitting in a really good spot now at 8-3-1, and we will see what happens in that Bear-Eagle game this afternoon in Philadelphia. Again, I am just rooting for the division right now, so I want all division opponents that are in front of the Packers to lose, even though you have a couple games left against them, and you don't have the tiebreak right now with the Eagles, which, again, is not going to come into play because of the tie. But I am just rooting for everybody in the division to lose until the Packers have solidified their spot in the division. So that is 2 o'clock. That's on Prime Video today. We actually got a lot of good games yesterday. We talked about on Monday, this is a really good slate of Thanksgiving Day games, and it played out that way. Packers-Lions was entertaining. Chiefs-Cowboys was really entertaining. You know, that tie against the Cowboys, I know we didn't love it, and there were so many chances to win, and that is kind of the lone standout or the aberration for the Packer defense, giving up 40 points, and it didn't look like they could stop anybody that night. But the Cowboys don't look really that bad, guys. 31-28 win yesterday. They're 6-5-1, and they are firmly in the playoff chase right now. They're a fun team to watch, honestly. Dak's having a great year. We've got the over on Dak on the yardage at 3,900 passing yards. He is well on pace for that. He is on pace for 4,600 yards. But he's kind of having a top 10 MVP season with Pickens and CeeDee Lamb there. Chiefs now are on the ropes at 6-6. They kind of saved their year temporarily with that win at home against the Colts on Sunday, but now they're really fighting for their lives at 6-6. They almost have to win out, you feel like. You got to get to 10. I mean, you've got to get to 10-7, you would think, to have a chance at the playoffs, and I would think you're going to have to get to 11 wins, and they're sitting at 6-6 right now. They may need to win their last 5 games, and the Cowboys are in the playoff chase now, so that tie is not looking as bad as it once did. And then you got the Joe Burrow return last night, a 32-14 win. Ravens turned the ball over 5 times. Bengal defense actually looked competent, which has not been the case a lot of this year, and now you get this all-pro level quarterback back. The Bengals are 4-8. You would think they also have to win out. I mean, you got to get to 9-8. 8-9, well, I don't know. Could 8-9 win the NFC North? But the Bengals right now, are they 2 games back? I think they're 2 back. Yeah, they're 3 back in the loss column. So the Steelers still lead the division. They've got to take on the Bills this weekend, though. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is playing. The Steelers are 6-5. Ravens are 6-6. Yeah, the Bengals at 4-8. I mean, they're not out of it. And you get Burrow back now. And if the defense can play the way they played last night and give themselves a chance in these games, and Burrow lights it up, they've got to go to Buffalo next weekend, then home with Baltimore, but then at Miami, winnable, home against Arizona, home against Cleveland. That's how they end it with Burrow back. I think they're in that race now in the division. I wonder what a future would be on the Bengals to win the AFC North right now at 4-8. Well, the Packers come out of yesterday 8-3-1, and we're feeling really good with the sweep of the Lions and just taking care of division business right now. I am waiting anxiously, and I don't know if he'll do it this weekend. There is a Detroit radio host. He goes by the handle Stick Radio on Twitter. And when the Packers traded for Parsons, he had this 2-minute video out talking about how, oh, you dumb Packer fans think this is going to be a game changer for you. You're paying way too much money for him. He's not going to live up to the hype. And you gave up the first-round picks, and you think this puts you over the edge, but the Lions still run the North. And then the Packers beat them in Week 1. And so people were chirping him because of the video he put out the day the Packers traded for Micah Parsons. And he said, all right, whatever. You took game 1. You're at Lambeau and all that stuff. So whatever. Congrats on your Week 1 Super Bowl. I think that was the stance of a lot of Lions fans on Twitter. Oh, hang the banner. You beat the Lions in Week 1. And then every subsequent week, he's been counting down to that Thanksgiving Day game. And, the Lions are going to put it on the Packers. And the reality for Packer fans will set in that Detroit and Dan Campbell still own Matt LaFleur, and they still run the NFC North. And then the Packers win again yesterday. This guy has not tweeted in 3 days, which is rare for a sports media personality in a major market. And his last tweet 3 days ago, which is a link to some article about Jared Goff's leadership. And that link right now has 2 likes and 211 comments. Hashtag ratioed. And Packer fans are just waiting for him to have that first tweet after all of the garbage he talked preseason, after Week 1, the lead up to Thanksgiving. And if the Lions won, he would have been doing the lambada on Twitter. He would have been throwing a parade. And now I think Packer fans are just waiting on this guy at Stick Radio. I'm refreshing. I'm checking it like every 2 hours to see if he's going to come out of the woods, come out of the weeds and make some kind of tweet or say something about yesterday's game. But at Stick Radio. But a nice win for the Packers as they get to 8-3-1 on the year. I think we got everything there. Turkey leg. Bears game today. Like I said, I am rooting for the division failures. I want as many division losses, so I will be an Eagle fan this afternoon at 2 o'clock. I think we got it all. What a day for the Packers on the road in Detroit yesterday. Now 3 years in a row on Thanksgiving Day. Keep putting them on Thanksgiving. We'll talk real quick about Badger football, and I guess we can talk more about that when we make some picks here too. Tomorrow, you have a chance to get Paul Bunyan's axe back, to right the wrong of last year, which I know we've talked about a ton on this podcast. To me, that was the low. And we've had some lows in the Luke Fickell era, and now, recently, we've had some highs as well. And it feels like we're building some momentum to the offseason and more money and a softer schedule and all the things we talked about. But that Black Friday game, I think we recorded a Victory Friday podcast after the Packers beat the Dolphins on Thanksgiving night, and then I went down to watch that Badger game. We had money on it, the chance to extend the bowl streak, to get to 6-6, to get Paul Bunyan's axe back, and they looked as bad as I think I've ever seen the Badgers look in my life on that Black Friday game. That, to me, when you look back at all the games in the Fickell era, even the, whatever it was, 37-0 loss to Iowa this year and the 34-0 loss to Ohio State, which no shame in that, really. But the Iowa and the Maryland losses this year were also bad. But I put that Minnesota loss on Black Friday at Camp Randall, the stadium emptying halfway through. It was ice cold that day, I think, and they just no-showed. They absolutely no-showed last year on Black Friday. That, to me, is the single worst game in the Fickell era. Now, you've got a couple of top 25 wins. You've rushed the field a couple of times. You have the chance to get to 5 wins on the year. You have the chance to beat your hated rival and get the axe back. And now with that money infusion that it sounds like is going to happen, and with the softer schedule next year where you're not going to be playing 7 top 25 teams, 4 of which are in the college football playoffs. You might not even play a top 10 team beyond Notre Dame next year, and that's the opener at Lambeau Field. You have the chance to ride a wave of momentum into the offseason by getting a win tomorrow. Like we said off the top, and again, we can hit on more of this when we make our picks here because it will be a part of it. The Gophers opened as 3-point favorites at home, which is generally a coin flip. I think more often than not, still, the thinking is if it's a coin flip game, the home team gets 2.5 or 3 points. So it opened as Gophers by 3. It is now Badgers by half point. So essentially Badgers in a pick 'em. I have seen some lines that have it as Badgers -1. So that's a lot. 3 or 4 points is a lot for it to flip. And the ESPN matchup predictor now has the Badgers at a 51% chance to win, Gophers at a 49% chance to win. Let's see if the defense can keep rolling and the young linebackers and the young front seven can continue to develop. Let's see if Carter Smith, if we can open things up a little bit more and see a tiny bit more in the passing game. Let's see if the running game can stay on an upward trajectory as well from what we saw against Illinois last Saturday night, where Darion Dupree was 100+ and the team was 200+ and almost 5 yards a carry, a classic Badger performance. Let's see if they can carry that on now into a big rivalry game coming up on Saturday. That is a 2:30 kickoff tomorrow. We'll be right in the middle of a snowstorm. And right now the Badgers are either in a pick'em or favored by 1. That is on FS1 tomorrow. Let's just talk about Badger hoops real quick. I'm not sure with all the football yesterday how many people were paying attention. The Badgers got hooped at number 9 BYU. We talked about that on Monday. They were 4-0 going into that game, ranked number 23 in the country, just got their doors blown off against a really good team, in my opinion, just based on what I saw. And again, it's November. We've got a long way to go. But if that BYU team is healthy, and DeBonsta, their star freshman, their whatever top 1 or top 2 or 3 recruit heading into the year, if he continues to play that way, that team should be in the Final Four conversation, Final Four Elite Eight. Now, we know the tournament's a crapshoot and really good teams get knocked out early all the time, but that's the level of talent on that BYU team. You would have preferred the Badgers not lose by almost 30, but I'm not going to lose any sleep early in the year losing to a team of that caliber on the road, and they were playing at the Jazz Arena for that game. So looking for a bounce back yesterday. They're in the Rady Children's Invitational. That is in San Diego. And they took on Providence. Not a bad program. 4-2 going into yesterday. Badgers 4-1. And the Badgers blew them out. They took the first half 51-32. And they end up winning 104-83. I know the traditionalist Badger basketball fans, the Dick Bennett's of the world and the Bo Ryans, still not going to love that defense giving up 83 points. But to put 104, what Greg Gard has been able to do with this program and transform it into an offensive powerhouse when that was never a part of any Badger conversation outside of the Decker-Kaminsky 2 years in 2014 and 2015 when they had NBA-level talent and just by virtue of that started scoring 70+, 80+. But what guard has been able to do in the past couple of years to quicken the pace and turn this into an offensive juggernaut is nothing short of remarkable, honestly, given what the heritage is for Badger basketball. But they put 104 up, shoot 48%, 36% from beyond the arc. Nick Boyd, who is the big transfer they got, the guard transferring from San Diego State, he put on a clinic yesterday. He had, 34 points? 36 points on 15 of 25 shooting, knocked down 4 threes, and he is averaging 22 per game. That combo of Blackwell and Boyd in the backcourt looks really strong. Andrew Rohde, the guy they got from Virginia in the offseason, he's a classic Wisconsin guy. He scored 4 points, but was really good defensively, had 4 assists, does all the small things right. Nolan Winter had 19 and 10, another double-double. And Austin Rapp, who is another transfer they got from where? He's the Aussie. He is 6'10". He's from Melbourne. And he's only a sophomore. He played at Portland University last year, averaged 14 points and 6.5 rebounds per game. He was really bad defensively against BYU, but I think a part of that is a sophomore, new program, power conference, taking on a team that has that much talent. He looked outstanding yesterday. That's what you're hoping to see from him. 20 points, 8 rebounds, 7 of 15 shooting, 5 of 11 really efficient from beyond the arc, and you got 9 from Janicki off the bench. So the Badgers get to 5-1, and they take on TCU in the title game today, Feast Week. They will be on at 4:30, but I thought a nice bounce back from that program after they got their doors blown off at number 9 BYU last Friday. To beat a quality program like Providence, we'll see if they can do it again today with TCU, and then they hop right into conference play on Wednesday with Northwestern, and then you've got the big Marquette showdown coming up on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday, December 6th, not tomorrow, but the week after. But I thought a nice get back for the Badgers after an ugly performance at BYU last Friday. And then the Bucks lost on Wednesday, NBA Cup game. They lost the NBA Cup game. They actually kept it reasonably close. I mean, Miami going into Wednesday, a 12-6 team, a first place in their division team, not a place the Bucks have played well, even with Giannis. So that was what? Is that the 4th game without Giannis or the 3rd? I think the 4th. And they were right there at the end, but like we talked about in the teaser, Cole Anthony. I didn't mind Cole Anthony the first few games of the year as a backup point guard. Every game since then, every time he's on the floor, I want him off the floor. He makes terrible shot decisions, turns the ball over a ton, and Doc had to talk about it postgame. I mean, you lost Wednesday 106-103. You were right there in that game against a first-place team, and in 11 minutes, that's how much Cole Anthony played on Wednesday. Only 11 minutes. He basically lost the game in 11 minutes. He was 0-for-7 from the field, 0-for-4 from beyond the arc, and had 4 turnovers, including some bad missed shots and turnovers late in that game. And they asked Doc about it post-game, and he said, yes, confidence is low. We got to try to build him up, and we got to try to get him back in the right direction. I mean, I appreciate all of that from Doc's perspective, and I get it. You want to make sure your players are going to get on a place where they can play better. But at this point, I mean, maybe just rest him a little bit. Maybe that'll be helpful. Shake his brain clear. That was a all-time bad 11 minutes. To cost your team a game like that and only play 11 minutes is insane. But you lost that one, 106-103. So they're 8-11 now. They've lost 6 in a row. Look, we're still really early in the year. We haven't even turned the calendar to December yet. But like we talked about when Giannis went down, you don't want Giannis to have to come back. And this team is 8-14 or 8-15. And then Giannis has to go full tilt for the remainder of the year just to get this team to a spot where they might be in the play-in tournament. You'd like to win a couple games without Giannis on the floor. They were close. Ryan Rollins, again, had a good game on Wednesday. That continues to be about the only silver lining right now for Bucks basketball when you look at this run they're on of all these losses in a row and not having Giannis. But the Bucks, what are they right now? They are 2 games out of a play-in tournament spot and 3 games out of the 6th seed. I guess that's not the end of the world. But Ryan Rollins had 24-25 on Wednesday. Finally got a shot going in the second half. He's averaging almost 19 points per game. You hope, I guess the hope is that when Giannis gets back, and he was questionable for Wednesday. So that was an improvement from where he had been just ruled out for every game the last 3 or 4 games. He was put on the injury report as questionable heading into Wednesday night. So he might be getting closer. Kevin Porter Jr. sounds like he's getting closer too. But Ryan Rollins continues to be the silver lining at 26 points and 7 rebounds, 5 assists on Wednesday. Miles Turner had probably his best game as a Buck on Wednesday too. 24 points. He was knocking down shots, getting the ball in the paint, had 8 rebounds as well, but just not enough with how bad that bench was. Bobby wasn't good either on Wednesday. But you lose that game, you fall to 8-11. They are in New York taking on the Knicks tonight. Even if you have Giannis, I don't feel like that's going to be a game you're going to win. So it's going to be tough. That's on Prime Video, so it goes Bears, Eagles football this afternoon on Prime Video, then Bucks and Knicks tonight. It is a 6:30 tip time. Then you have a back-to-back. They're at home with Brooklyn tomorrow night. That is a game you got to get. Brooklyn is 3-14. So even without Giannis, you've got to get that Brooklyn game on Saturday. But you'd like to get a couple wins here with Giannis down so you're not fighting for your life for the remainder of the year when you finally get Giannis and Kevin Porter Jr. back. And then real quick before we make some picks, I don't know if you saw this. MLB Trade Rumors had this posted yesterday. Coming off of 97 wins and an NLCS run, and yes, the NLCS was a hot mess, obviously, against the Dodger powerhouse, but so much to love about this year, and Mizorowski coming up, and the development of some of the younger players, franchise record, George Webb's burger win streak, multiple long win streaks, 8-game win streak, 11-game win streak, 14-game win streak. You beat the Cubs and Council in the NLDS. You finally get a playoff series win in a dramatic Game 5, and what was the article yesterday? The Brewers are concerned about their payroll heading into next year. You have got to be kidding me, Mark Attanasio. Go steal some more Malibu sand. Do what you got to do. I can't deal with this in November. I mean, I know that story, and we talked a little bit about it heading into the year, but then the year was so much fun outside of the first month where they got off to the 0-4 start. April and the first part of May were not good, but the rest of the year, it felt like they were a house of fire until they got to the NLCS against the Dodgers. So there was so much to like. The storyline of the payroll consistently either staying stagnant or going down a little bit, and whether or not Mark could spend more money on this team. I know we talked about that going into last year, but that conversation just sort of fell off because of the success they were having. You'd prefer to talk about all the success instead of that kind of stuff. But here we are again, where you get to the winter meetings, and already these articles are kind of getting leaked out there. Oh, we might be concerned about the payroll getting too high. What are we talking about? They just signed Woodruff, I guess, to $22 million. Is that it? I mean, there's no other major contract on the books right now. Freddie is dirt cheap at $8 million for what he did, a top 5 Cy Young finish. But I saw that on Twitter. I just rolled my eyes and said, not today, Mark. I can't do it. It's November. It's Thanksgiving. I can't do this right now. I can't do this. Where already it kind of feels like they're planting seeds, like Mark is planting seeds for if they don't do anything for the remainder of the offseason and if they trade Peralta. It feels like he is sowing those seeds. When fans get upset, he can say, well, I told you in November we were worried about money. It just feels like those are getting thrown out to get us ready for a nothing burger of an offseason. I just rolled my eyes and said, not now. Not in November, Mark. Not in November. All right, let's make some picks.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Never tell me the odds.
If someone gives you 10,000 to 1 on anything, you take it.
That's a cool G, Daddy-O. Now you gotta let it ride.
Okay, we were 2-0-1 coming out of last week, so we are 2 units up now at 22-20-2 on the year, and we're on the verge of a couple of those futures hitting. The Broncos season win total, we need one more for that. The Rams season win total, we need one more for that. So we're getting close on those two. But 22-20-2 coming out of last week's 2-0-1 week. I've got 4 this week. The Ohio State-Michigan clash, one of the biggest rivalries in college football, maybe the preeminent rivalry in college football. OSU, despite winning the national title last year, they have not beaten Michigan since 2019, pre-pandemic. And they were heavy favorites last year, and Michigan stunned them. I think Ohio State, and remember, we had the future. When the college football playoffs started, I had Ohio State to win the title, I think at plus 210. That was a big hit for us at the end of last year. I just think they're going to take it to them. Michigan's ranked 18th in the country. They've got the outstanding freshman quarterback who hasn't quite been as good as I think he was advertised to be heading into the year. It feels like they've hung around mainly on their defense again. I just feel like even though this is in Michigan, I feel like Ohio State, they heard all the talk all offseason from Michigan fans of, oh, you won the national title, but you couldn't beat us. I think they're going to blow them out tomorrow. Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite to win by 10. It just feels like this is one they've had starred and highlighted and asterisks heading into the year. I do think they're even more talented than their national title team last year. I feel like this is going to be blowout city. I think 31-7, 38-10, something like that. I could be wrong, and we all thought that last year, and Michigan not only covered, but they won outright. But it feels like Ohio State has not beaten this team in 6 years, and they're coming off of a national title. I will take OSU minus 9.5. I am going to take the Badgers to win. I've got them in a pick 'em. If they win this, so we had the bet on them at plus 290 to win against Illinois outright. We had them to cover. I think at this point, we're actually on the positive side of balancing out that bet we had to begin the year on the over on 5.5 wins, which was an unmitigated disaster. But we've won enough now. I had them to cover against Washington. We had the cover against Indiana. We had the cover and the win against Illinois. So we're riding a little momentum on the Badgers right now. I'll take them. I'll take them to put the exclamation point on some positivity heading into next year. Get the axe back on Saturday. Badgers to win outright. Then on Sunday, I've got two. One of them is disgusting, but I am going to take the Browns on Sunday at +5 at home against the Niners. Niners are 8-4. I think my Niners to win the NFC West bet is dead because the Rams are so good and they're 2 games up and 2 better in the loss column. And we talked about that Rams schedule down the stretch. The Niners would have to win out, I think, to win the division at this point, and I just don't see that happening. Browns defense is good. We know that from the Browns-Packer game in Week 3, and they have been good every week since then. Myles Garrett is a monster. Shedeur made his first start last week. He was fine. He threw a touchdown. I don't think he turned the ball over last week. And I know a lot of people don't love Shedeur, but I kind of like his confidence and always have. And they do have some weapons on that offense. And you know, at home, their defense is going to muck things up. Brock Purdy was not good last week despite a Niners win. Turned the ball over, 3 times or 4 times? And that Browns defense is legit, a top 5, top 3 defense. So the Niners might win this game. That would be my perfect window here. My perfect window would be the Niners win and the Browns cover 5. So like a 17-14 Browns win or 49ers win would just be beautiful for me. But I think this is going to be a close game, and the Browns at home with some momentum now with Shedeur injecting some life into that offense, and they know the defense is good. I will take the Browns +5 against the Niners. I kind of want to take the Titans, too. Titans are +6 against the Jaguars at home. I know the Titans are a 1-win team. Jaguars are 7-4, but Trevor Lawrence is a lot like some of the other quarterbacks that turn the ball over a ton. He's kind of like Jameis Winston. And they're very similar, right? Weren't they back-to-back number 1 overall picks? Winston in 2015, Lawrence in 2016 or 17? And he is very similar this year. 14 touchdowns, 11 picks. I don't know. Titans at home, they played close in a lot of these games. I kind of feel like they're going to give them a game. I'm not taking them, but I want to. I kind of want to parlay Browns +5 and Titans +6.5, but I'm not going to. I am going to take the under, which is no fun, but I'm taking the under in a game that is very critical to me personally. Texans and Colts in Indy on Sunday. I have the Texans' future to win the AFC South. They are coming in 6-5. Colts are 8-3, and this is the first of 2 matchups they have left. Texans have the best defense in the NFL right now, number 1 defense in the NFL. Daniel Jones apparently has a fractured fibula and is questionable to play. There were some highlights from practice up on Twitter yesterday where it looks like he can't walk. So the Colts might be going with a backup quarterback. They just lost in Kansas City in a tough game. Texans coming in with some momentum. You know that defense is good. The over-under is 45. I smell a low-scoring game. I don't know if it's going to be C.J. Stroud or Davis Mills out there at starting quarterback for the Texans as a C.J. Stroud fantasy keeper league haver. I'd like to know more about that. But I don't know if he's going to be out there or Davis Mills. Either way, the Texans don't score a ton of points. Their defense keeps them in games and wins them games. And with Daniel Jones being up in the air, I just don't think it's going to be a big points game. I will take the under on 45, and I would love a Texans win. If the Texans can win that, get to 7-5, Colts fall to 8-4, you're a game back. You've got one more game coming up. I think the Jaguars will fall off at some point. If the Texans can win that game on Sunday, then we might be fully back on that bet. If they lose, it's over. If they lose and they're 3 games back, there's just not enough time, even with one more matchup coming up. So I would love a Texans win, but I'm betting on the under at 45. So those are the 4 for this week. Badgers to win, OSU -9.5, Browns +5, Texans, Colts under of 45. That'll do it for us here. Victory Friday podcast. We'll get back after it on Monday. Like I talked about, we'll go over it more on Monday, but it's going to be a weird podcast week next week. We are going to New York on Thursday, so maybe a Wednesday podcast next week, and then we wouldn't have one until the following Tuesday. We're flying back on Monday, so it would be hard to have a Victory Monday, hopefully, podcast. Maybe we'd have a Victory Tuesday podcast, but for sure we're back on Monday next week. Have a happy, safe, enjoyable remainder of your Thanksgiving weekend. We'll chat with you then.